create that empower entrepreneurs all over the world. And of course, I have a special guest. He's the creator of the Ways to Wealth method, none other than Mr. Brian Bogert.
Happy to be here with you, my friend.
Welcome once again, Mr. Brian, Entrepreneurship 101. And can you please introduce more by yourself that I missed?
Yeah, I always say I'm a husband and father first. It's important for me to start there because it's the only thing binary in my world. Outside of that, my world is filled with entrepreneurship and has been for a very, very long time. I'll quickly and high level just hit on one of the stories that I'm most associated with. When I was 7, I was run over by a truck and my left arm was torn from my body, reattached, multiple surgeries, years of recovery. And this is also the beginning of the path of this waste to wealth methodology that we teach today. At the end of the day, I am a time compression time compression expert and a force multiplier. So I help people compress time to clarity, connection, and amplified impact. I work with small, beginning solopreneurs all the way up to full-blown enterprise organizations into the billions of dollars, and have a backdrop of consulting. But I coach and I speak. And at the end of the day, what is waste to wealth? There's the human side of it, which is the trash from people's past. It's the waste in here that shows up as beliefs and armor and self-protection that disconnect us from everything and everyone that we want, including freedom and abundance within our businesses. The other side of this concept of waste is really, where does waste show up within businesses, right? There's opportunity waste, there's operational waste, there's financial waste. But at the end of the day, there's also 4 categories that we often see waste exist in businesses: repetition, decision, context switching, and human for workflow. And so not only am I helping people identify and remove the waste they don't know exists within themselves or within their businesses, but then we take a very pragmatic approach of generating those to be wealth generating concepts so that we're actually seeing the full circle. Man, I get lit up by people. I get lit up by helping people break through. And at the end of the day, I have a lot of fun being able to be a really effective mirror to businesses and entrepreneurs so that they can become the best versions of themselves.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Brian. Thank you. And today let's talk about, for sure, your favorite entrepreneurship. We often glorify the overnight success, but what is the most significant, unglamorous, and prolonged struggle you face that truly define your journey?
Oh man, there's a lot. Let me take a step back though, because I do want to hit on what you just said. I do believe that people practice in private what they for years, what they then get celebrated in public for. Right? It's things that
Mhm.
happen behind the scenes that take place on this long journey of self-discovery, self-improvement, and really perfecting and mastering a craft. There are multiple things that took place within my businesses as well as within myself that this has been true for. But what I will say is the thing that I was practicing for years that ultimately had the biggest impact in my ability in business was a very singular touch point for myself, which is going to sound weird. It's not going to make sense to some people when I first say it. But when I shut off physical pain, when it exceeded my ability to cope when I was 7, I shut off mental pain, emotional pain, and spiritual pain for 25 years and didn't know it. Why do I bring this up? Because even before that, I knew that I was disconnected and I knew I was not having the same impact that I wanted. And I was effective at building external success. But the truth of the matter is, human connection without emotion isn't really human connection. And if we don't understand how to connect with clarity in a way that we can meet people where they are and communicate, I don't care what business you're in, you won't be able to accomplish it. Now, what I'll tell you is though at 32, I began to feel emotion for the very first time, I would tell you that the work I've done around human connection, vulnerability, authenticity, really being able to have like radical transparency and get myself to a place where I no longer need to protect, justify, or defend anything about myself was almost 32-year process, meaning it was 25 years of being shut off while actively trying to work on it. And then once I had access to the emotion that allowed me to connect, I've had to really work on this. Today, I get compliments all the time for how solid of a communicator I am, how effectively I can connect with people very quickly, how I can meet pretty much anybody where they are objectively and non-judgmentally, and how I really have this underpinning of connection, trust, and follow through that people rely on in my business that in prior periods I would not have been recognized for. I wouldn't have been accomplished in that way. I've practiced for years how to actually connect with myself and connect with others. And today I'm considered an expert in this that I get recognition for, but it took me the better part of 3 decades to be able to learn it, understand it, and deploy it in a way that not only can I do it effectively for myself, but that others can feel it, experience it, and learn from it.
Hmm. Experience it, learn it. I like that. Mr. Brian, how do you separate your self worth from the performance of your business, especially during inevitable downturns or failures?
Well, it's easy to do now. It was not easy to do for a lot of years. Why do I say that? Because I am someone that learned to receive love, validation, and connection through performance, which meant it was always contingent upon what I did instead of who I am. Why do I highlight that? I struggled with that for years because I would accomplish big things, but my shame would give me the feeling of needing to apologize for it. I wasn't able to own it. I wasn't able to step in it. I wasn't able to really be able to move forward in the ways that I wanted. And Daniel, I'm going to completely own. I just had a complete brain fart. Give me like a one-word stimulus to the question that you asked again, because I have it, and it just like something interrupted it.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you separate your self worth from the
Self-worth.
performance?
Yes.
Yes, self worth.
Yes. So self-worth is literally defined as what do you believe you deserve?
Mm, yes.
And your value is literally your contributions to the world. My self-worth, I deserve abundance, happiness, freedom, joy, fulfillment, connection, right? I know what my self-worth is because it's not dependent on anything I do externally. I'm solid and I'm clear. It's no different than what I had suggested before as it relates to the work I needed to do to remove the shame, remove the anger, and utilizing emotion as an effective tool. Why? Because the second we protect ourselves, we guarantee we will disconnect ourselves from who we are and what we want. Largely, my professional journey had external success written all over it. Bank account was full, but I found myself empty, and my self worth was directly correlated to the amount of money in the bank, the amount of money I made every year, and the success profiles that I have. Today, I very much know not only my worth, but I know my marketplace value. And those are not necessarily one and the same. However, because I know my marketplace value and I can negotiate it, communicate it, and garner my value up front, my worth is never in question. Most of my clients say, look, we can't do this without you, or you're paying for yourself. So this is a no-brainer to continue this relationship. When you're adding so much value consistently, you can garner in the marketplace and redefine these things. But yet I'm in multiple times in periods of transition and change that can feel unclear, that can feel uncertain. And in those moments, if I'm not careful, my self-worth could be right up at the front in those transitions and innovative periods like you talked about. But I
Mm,
also know how to settle that. And I know how to recognize when I get into that state so I can unwind it. And I'm only spending minutes and moments there versus months, years, or decades like I used to. And so in this case, it's very difficult for many people to separate these things. But I lived in a point in my life when my bank account was full, but everything else I valued and cared about was empty.
mm-hmm.
And I did work, and I had some financial losses, and I had some business impacts in all of these change and transitionary periods. And there was a point about 4 or 5 years ago that everything I've ever wanted was true in my life. Everything I valued, relationships, freedom, health, I valued. It was all there except money in the bank. Now, here's the reality. If my bank account is full and everything else I value is empty, that's not a worthy life. But if everything in my life is full and the bank account isn't at a given particular moment, well, that's a worthy life. Why? Because money, just like the currency title that it is a current and it flows like any other energy. My worth, my stability, my happiness, my freedom, my joy has nothing to do with my external success anymore. And the second I start to feel that way, I know I've tipped into ego-based consciousness. I know I've tipped into self-protection, and I've got to unwind the stimulus that put me there in the first place. But because every other category of my life is on point, exactly where I want it to be, my marriage, my relationship with my kids, and that doesn't mean they can't be better. That doesn't mean I don't try to improve every day. But everything I've ever valued, the box is checked today. That means no matter where the bank account falls, my worth and my value aren't intermingled.
Interesting and empowering answer, Mr. Brian. Entrepreneurship can be isolating. Who or what become your most crucial sounding board or source of perspective when you could not share the full burden with your team?
Yeah, it is very isolating, which is also why it's important to surround yourself with peers and also to surround yourself with people who have understanding and context that might not be your peers, but might be mentors or coaches. I do both, right? I surround myself in communities of other entrepreneurs that are individuals who have the knowledge and context of what it's like to start your own business, run your own business, lead people, build systems, create these things, that understand all of the dynamics and demands that get held up in that. I've developed and built my own mastermind where we have a number of entrepreneurs who are in there, and it's a very collaborative and co-working space, and many of us are in similar trajectories. I happen to be the coach and the mentor in this case, but these are also peers in different respects that we relate to. I join other people's masterminds. I also, at every single point in the last 14 years, have had a minimum of one coach. I have multiple mentors that I communicate with on a regular and consistent basis for outside insight. But the person that I confide in the most, the person that I really lean on in those moments of feeling isolated more than anyone else, is my partner at home, my beautiful bride and my wife. Why? Because she's my partner in my life. And so the business, though she's not active in our business in the same ways that she once was, she does have the understanding, and she also knows what's required sometimes to get it done. She knows how isolating it can be, to the point that she knows the demands at any given time and can proactively accommodate or adjust, or we can move things around within our overall life plan at any given moment to allow the space that's needed either for myself or for her to feel that connection and to have that level of meaning. And then, honestly, as simple as this last part might sound, yes, I surround myself with these people. It's a lot less isolating if you're having fun. So the
Mm.
question to ask yourself is, are you having fun doing what you're doing? And if you're not, regardless of who else is involved, right? How do you get yourself to be emotionally, intellectually, physically engaged in a way that lights you up and is fun? See, I do a lot of deep people work, but I also do a lot of coding and development work and AI work and things that I could lose myself in for 18 hours like that and not even realize how much time passed. Well, why? Because I'm in flow and I'm enjoying the work that I'm doing, and it's meaningful and it's productive and it's building, right? And so not always am I in a place where I need that connection anymore, but that also came through a much later lesson in life, which is I used to believe I was an extrovert. Truth of the matter is I'm an extroverted introvert. I need that alone time too. So that isolation can be a blessing as well as a curse. And I try to lean into the blessing sides of it more often than not.
Mm. So, what was the most difficult psychological shift on moving from being the primary doer to a building, empowering a team to execute your vision?
It's the realization that many people in entrepreneurship end up becoming the biggest bottleneck in their growth, as well as they just end up giving themselves a job. Now, if your goal is to just have a job where you perform the tasks that you're doing and you don't care how big it is and you're just looking for an income to offset that, you may be just set. For me, I want more. I like to build things constantly. I'm not an operator and executor. I am a visionary and a builder, which means I like to be focusing on those things. And so the only way to be able to do that effectively over time is to be able to build a thoughtful and integrated approach to understanding your, for lack of a better term, standard operating procedures. So one of the things that I work on and do in my business is actively focus on the things that are in those categories of waste: repetition, context switching, decision, human for workflow. And within those, identifying for myself and across my team, what are the truly transactional, non-human essential tasks that we can truly automate or create complete workflows for or templates for? Anything that you repeat or do more than once it's calling for a system. And this is something that I used to do I used to be a really good delegator in handing things off directly, but I wasn't necessarily good at setting up the systems so that people could self-learn and to have the standards that would allow us to like be consistent across the field. But this is also a shift in your ego, right? You are not that important, frankly. And one of the things I ask every entrepreneur to do is to list every item that is required in their business, whether they touch it or not, through 3 questions. The first question is this something that only I can do? By the way, typically less than 10% of your activities are going to be that. The second question is this something that that someone else could do or would do better, or would do at even an 80 to 90% proficiency to what I would do? And then the last is this even something that really needs to get done? The reason I highlight those 3 questions is because if you're a solopreneur today looking to build the systems and to offload and to delegate and to be able to hand things off so you can build and scale, you still need to know where everything in your business fits so that when you have the resources, the time, the energy to get a virtual assistant or build a system or hire a full-time teammate, that you can actually walk them through and onboard them in a successful way, right? You need to be able to do that. But we also have to be able to pay attention to, look, if only 10% of the things in my business are things that only I can do, that's the only place ideally I need to be spending time, because that's the biggest contributor to the business. If I can streamline and automate or train other people to do everything else in the 90%, even if it's 80 to 90% of my proficiency, what am I opening up for myself? Opportunity, right? Opportunity to build new things, create new revenue streams, create new partnerships, to move the needle in the places that they can't do, but I can, right? And then if we're also really honest with ourselves, there's a lot of businesses and a lot of people who go through the mundane elements of just repetitive, unnecessary tasks and things that don't really move the needle. It makes you feel good. It's busy work. It makes you feel like you're busy, but it's not necessarily producing results or driving towards growth. And so again, it all depends on what your goal is. If you just want to give yourself a job and make X amount of money to be able to support the lifestyle you want, there is nothing wrong with that. I support that and encourage it. But if you actually want to build and scale, there's only a couple of ways to do it. It's through technology or through people, both of which require awareness and intentionality into systematizing and standardizing operating procedures within your business.
When has going against your quantitative data or metrics to follow a gut feeling about customers' unspoken need to let a major win? What becomes
Can you
truth
repeat that
about
one more time, my
data?
friend?
Let's talk about the customer truth versus data. When it's going against your quantitative data or metrics to follow a gut feeling about customers' unspoken need to lead to a major win.
I would suggest that a big portion of my work is that, in the sense that it's often not what people think it is. Okay. So I'll give a specific example, right? I was working with, and I still do today, a content creator that has over 1 million followers on multiple platforms, all organic, no bot followers, no nothing. She is someone that averages 5 to 7 million views on all of her channels per week. And she gets between 300 and 400 DMs per week. She also, in her niche field, was orchestrating and connecting big 7 and 8 figure deals with vendors, suppliers, partners within the industry, of which she got $0 for. And this woman had never made more than 50 grand in her life over the course of a 12-year career in this business, despite all of the followers, all the growth, all the engagement. Why? Because she didn't know how to monetize. right? This wasn't a metrics and an engagement issue. This wasn't a communication issue. This isn't a social strategy issue. She has a lot of that stuff dialed in. Now, she wanted to make more money, so she came in thinking that that was the context. Here's the kicker, though. Her biggest blocker, which was an intuitive read by my part that happened in the very first call with her, we identified that her deepest blocker, her deepest shame, was actually connected to a series of memories between the ages of 10 and 14 that ultimately told her that being creative was bad and she'd never make any money. She didn't know her self-worth, so she couldn't garner and negotiate her value up front. But here's the reality. Over the course of the next 3 to 4 months, not only we help reposition and help her see, and me reflecting back the value of what she has, literally within 90 days, her base rates for what she was charging for her services went up by 3 times, and people paid for it. She started negotiating deals that she was getting percentages and revenues for. She entered into brand partnerships within 9 months of her process, all simply due to belief systems and pattern recognition with the strategies and tactics within her business that we deployed. She did 250 grand in the first 9 months in the program, and within a year, she was on track to do $1 million. None of that was what she had heard from other coaches. All of them were looking at all of her stuff, telling her where she needed to go post next, or what next offer she needed to do, or how she needed to structure herself. But yet she would never get in front of the camera for any of them because she didn't feel safe, she didn't get trusted, and nobody really understood her and the value that she had. So I hope that answers your question, but that wasn't a data thing that uncovered that. It was a me understanding people and the nuances and the intuition that allowed us to see this wasn't a financial or a strategic and tactical problem. This was an internal problem. And once we fixed that, everything external followed.
So the boardroom versus the kitchen table, Mr. Brian. How do you navigate the tension between the ambitious, growth-oriented advice from investor board members and the personal values or lifestyle goals you hold for yourself and your family?
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason I'm an entrepreneur, because I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks about what I'm doing. And so what do I mean by
True.
that? I integrate my life very intentionally, right? When I told you I'm a husband and father first, it's the only thing binary in my world. I am constantly and on a daily basis doing a value stack to make sure that my words, actions, and behaviors are congruent with that, right? Here's the reality. If I am highly present and I am aware and I am intentional in every area of my life, I can navigate between the boardroom and the kitchen table with ease. Why? Because I can be where my feet are and see that I'm sitting at that table with my 11-year-old and my 10-year-old and my wife, and whatever's happening at work or whatever decisions need to be made are not active nor present in that moment because I don't care. I'm not there at that moment. I'm with my wife and my kids. The same thing in the boardroom. Though they could interrupt me because they're the only ones that can call me at any point for anything, and I will answer. That's what I do in the boardroom. If one of my kids calls me, especially if they call me twice in a row and I'm in a client meeting, I don't give a shit what is or who is in the room. I'll pick up the phone and step out and talk to them. And if anyone has a problem with how I'm prioritizing my family, then I will not be doing business with them for very long. I know this sounds crazy, but because I know my worth, I again don't adjust my external behaviors to accommodate for the expectations of others. I align and live congruently with my lived and stated values, and I do so in a way that allows and honors whoever's right in front of me. But that also is part of my superpower in the work I do with people, in coaching, in businesses, is my ability to be highly present. And when I can do that, to this date, almost nobody has really even said a word. You know, where people are going to challenge is if I'm not clear in my own values, right? If I wasn't clear in my own values and I hesitate to pick up my phone in a boardroom for my kid because I'm worried about what anybody else is going to say, someone might make a comment about it. Hey, maybe you don't want to take calls in boardrooms. But when I confidently step up, answer my call, and I come back and I don't apologize, I say, hey, thank you for your patience. I've said to you guys many times, I'm a husband and father first. My kid called me. He needed something. Thank you for your patience while I had to pay attention to that right in front of me. And if they balk, they say anything other than, oh, we're so happy. I hope everything is okay. Which, by the way, you noticed I didn't apologize. I didn't make myself subservient to the board leadership. I said, thank you for your patience, acknowledging their patience, but also not asking for an excuse or an exception because the behavior to me wasn't in the wrong. It's just that I wanted to value their commitment of time while I stepped out to do so. Hopefully that makes sense. But for me, it's about presence and it's about clarity in your values. and your ability to communicate them and stand within those boundaries.
Well, very well said, Mr. Brian. Very well said. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in sixth season, Abstract Poetry in third season, and my Book 101 review in sixth season as well, Comedy 101 in third season, and my Food 101 in sixth season as well, Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101 review, Music 101, sixth season, Science 101, Sex 101, fourth season, and my baby podcast, 3Beer 101, Low 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Brian, when you eventually step away, what do you hope your company will stand for beyond its products or profits?
We have a stated mission that we are on a mission and path to impact over 1 billion lives by reducing the level of suffering that exists on this planet, largely of which I believe exists internal, right? It's a lot of that waste, a lot of that trash. And so what I think our company is going to stand for is advocating for others to step into what their potential really is. And if I look at my own stated reason for existence, my purpose for being on this planet, it's to allow my truth to give others permission to live theirs. So if what we stood for was helping other people step more clearly into who they are, their power, their ownership, their ability to create impact in the world, whether I get the credit or not, that'll be something I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Brian, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Entrepreneurship 101?
I would just say go to brianbogert.com/connect. It'll give you everything you need, from our podcasts, our shows, to our masterminds, to our social media, to our main website, which Daniel's been so kind to be able to feature here on this live show. At the end of the day, we know that to impact those billion lives, 99.999% of them will never pay us $1, which we're completely okay with. And so the only thing I ask is if anything resonated with you, anything moved. I believe that moved people move people. I'm just trying to move as many as I possibly can. So whether you lean in formally or informally, move it through the world, do something with it, share it with others, because that's the compound effect of what I call collective impact, and you all can be a part of it.
Yes, Mr. Brian, thank you for building your legacy to the world and sharing to the world. And I have one more question. What question about entrepreneurship that you're still actively trying to answer for yourself right now?
Wow.
What
That's a loaded question. I feel like I'm asking questions every day, my friend. What is one question about entrepreneurship that I'm still asking myself right now? I'm going to tell you that it is still connected to even some of the concepts I told you that I'm doing really, really well. The questions I'm asking is, how little can I actually do that and still allow my business and my world to grow? Meaning, it's not that I'm not going to work or be active, but I am constantly asking and challenging on the entrepreneurial side, like, what is absolutely necessary and what is absolutely moving the needle? And it's a question that I think that the answer is going to change for the rest of my life. And so it's something that I ask consistently, because if I can be paying attention to that, it allows me to know that I'm not wasting my time, my energy, my resources. Instead, it's focusing on at least my value stack or contributory growth within the business.
Yes, Mr. Brian, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.